All right, joining us now is her now. Is this is right? Entering her ninth season as head coach of the Arkansas Razorbacks. Of course, she was a national champion as a player at Cal. I speak of our friend on the show, Courtney Deifel, joining us. Ninth season?
I know. Can you believe it? I mean,
Wow.
time flies when you're having fun, Eric. No, it's crazy. It's gone so fast. And I always have to remember like how long I've been here by the age of my oldest son, because it's gone like, how you just like you just work and you go and you just like lose track of time
Sure.
sometimes. So I always have to remember like, okay, trip's 8, which means this is year 9. And so that's my marker typically, but it has gone so fast and it's hard to believe year 9, starting
Did
year 9, pretty crazy.
When you got into coaching, did you envision yourself coaching in one place for as long as nine seasons, let alone, as a head coach?
Well, I think that you hope that. I think that you hope you find that place that fits, that you're the right fit for them and they're the right fit for you and you just hope that. When I got into coaching, I didn't even envision myself being a head coach. So I will say that. I could have been a lifetime assistant. I could be a really great number two. But I think when you find a fit that just works, I think everyone hopes for that. And then it just kind of makes up your mind for you. But yeah, I think that's always the goal, is to just find that really good fit. And I think we found it here.
If definitely for sure. I think Arkansas fans would agree with that. Do you when you go out to stores or just random places, do you get stopped by fans and say, hey coach, I'm a fan, or hey coach, how's the team looking? Like, do you get stopped now? Because you've been there along with the success and obviously the interest got exploding for your program. Has that now become a little harder now when you're doing groceries and things?
Yeah, it had, well, it's not harder. It's a huge compliment to our program. But it's changed quite a bit from year 1 to now. It's like I don't know the last time I went out where someone didn't say, "Hey, coach," or "Can't wait for the season to start, coach," or "Your girls are killing it," or whatever they say. It's really nice. It means our program's, making a mark on them, and they've recognized it, and it's fun. I can't run out to the store in my jammies straight out of bed anymore. I do sometimes, but that's a fun perk. It means that our program is something that they're proud of and something that they're following. And we knew that when we got here, that we had the people to win over. We had the fans in place. If we won them over, they'd show up, and they have. And it's been a really fun change.
I didn't know pajamas going to the store. I'm not sure if that's I recommend that with the weather we're currently dealing with, but
Oh, not right now. Not right now. You
okay,
have to have
all
like a
right,
few layers.
fair
Oh
enough.
my gosh.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
would be a little rough. When you look at this off season, when you look back at last season, what do you reflect from last season, and what do you hope that the returners from last year took from that experience for this year?
Well, I think the theme that we've talked about so much from last year to this year and just throughout last year is growth. We had a ton of growth. We had a very young team. We had a lot of underclassmen on the field, and they got a lot of experience and a lot of growth. And so having that mindset, having that experience, and then that shift of like, okay, how we finished wasn't ideal. It didn't sit well with us. We've had the biggest growth from that experience, even in our early years, is like, okay, we're not going to finish this way. Them saying that to me, not me saying it to them. If I say it to them and they don't feel that, it doesn't mean anything. So them looking at us and saying like, we expect more out of ourselves. We're going to continue to push. We have a great freshman. We've had some great additions out of the portal. We got Rylan Hedgecock back. So there's a lot of things that have continued to motivate this group. And so I think of growth. This team's grown a lot. They've grown a lot from last year to this year. They've grown a lot throughout this last fall. And they continue to grow on a daily basis. And so when they start to use that word as something that they really want to focus on for this group specifically, like they chose that word, and it just, as a coach, you just like kind of get the warm and fuzzies inside of like one of the thing that's most important to this group is continue to grow, continue to learn every day. And they've done that.
Obviously, you do media availabilities with the local media often in the fall. You've done it already, but during this spring portion there, which I'm always appreciative of getting the invite because I'm always intrigued to see what's going on with you and the program. And obviously, the question you keep getting asked about is the pitching staff, and it's always I always sit back and listen because they kind of they try to find different ways of asking you about it to get more out of
Yeah.
you. But you have said you believe right now this is probably going to be a staff by committee for
Mhm.
perhaps the first time since your first or second year at Arkansas. My question
Yeah.
is that an adjustment for you since you haven't had to have that in a while? Since you've obviously had Shanice Dells, for example, last year, Mary Half before that, etc. Is that an adjustment for you from that standpoint?
Yeah, it is. Also need to say I appreciate you showing up to those media
Thank you.
availabilities. It's fun. It's fun when you get, great people showing up and great questions and different questions, because a lot of times we do get the same one, masked in a different way. But yeah, I think that anybody that follows our program, that's going to be their biggest question. And so I know we're going to continue to get that until this staff shows up and proves themselves. I get that. That's the name of the game, is pitching. It is going to be an adjustment for us because we don't have that. And that's the way the game's going anyway, but we don't have the Shanice Dells, the Mary Half, the Autumn Storms that we've relied on. We've relied on that one or two arms, but it's an offensive game, and you're seeing the game. The best staffs are staffs that, use each other, pair off each other, match up really well. And so that's going to be our challenge. We've worked really hard in the off season, is just getting to understand how to best use them together, how to best match them against offenses. We've been really trying to dive into offenses and title them, and so we can kind of work through the matchup process. But that's going to be the challenge for us, especially early, is just getting them comfortable in all the roles, and so they know too. It's like you might have a role where you're throwing four or five innings every game for a weekend, and you might have a role one weekend where you're going to throw two. You might throw one. You might not be a great matchup. We need to go with someone else that has this great strength. But I think it's a very connected staff. I think it's a staff that understands that, and I think it's a staff that supports each other, because they know that everyone in the staff brings something different, and they do that really well. And so it's been an interesting transition. It's challenged us. I like that. And it's gonna, we're gonna have to, it's one of those things. It's like, you don't know how you're really gonna utilize that until you're in a real game. And so we'll have to figure that out early and get as comfortable as we can, as quickly as we can. But I will say our pitchers are ready for that.
I know, so when I've talked to some coaches that do go by committee, some have like a script. They go based on analytics, maybe, or they know, hey, my certain pitcher can only go certain amount of pitches or certain amount of innings, and we have a plan, and then we're going to go to this person, and etc. Some other coaches don't want to just plan it out in advance. They just want to see how the game goes and evolves, and see how each pitcher handles certain situations. Where's your kind of philosophy when it comes to that?
I would say it's probably right in the middle. I mean, obviously, with Matt on staff, we do a lot with analytics. We do a lot with numbers. It's not our only driving force, but we definitely weigh that really heavily. I think we have a good balance in using that. We always have the plan. We always have the best case scenario. We have the worst case scenario. And so that's going to continue to be what we do. We'll have the plan for the game. We'll have the ideal for the game for the weekend, but we're just going to have to adjust as we need. If we get a little bit more out of someone than we first projected, then that's just a bonus. And so I don't know that we'll be so cut and dry with it, but we'll definitely have a plan and be ready to move as we need to.
I know in the fall when you did a media availability in the fall, you mentioned that John Barfelt was going to look at your pictures during the fall and see where it goes and all that stuff. What was that like, having him an extra pair of eyes and getting a point of view from the outside, almost scouting what you have your pictures, which is a unique perspective there to have somebody kind of tell you, hey, this is what we see from the outside. How does that go?
Well, he's exceptional. I mean, I've always had so much respect for him, and just his time as the head coach at Tulsa, and just what he's done with pitching there, and then what he did at OSU. I just think the world of him. And so getting to have him in the bullpen and having another set of eyes is, it was outstanding. I think he just has a demeanor, and a knowledge that is, you just kind of hang on every word, and he has this very unassuming way, but he, also just has a way of just connecting, so he can watch them and tell me right away, like, hey, let's try this, let's look at this, let's try this. And so it was, I think, hugely beneficial. And he just has this way about him that, you just like kind of gravitate towards him and what he says. And so I think it was really helpful for me, and getting to relay what he said to them. I know that it meant a lot to our players, and I felt like, we all got a ton out of it. And, so it was huge. It was huge. He's so great. I mean,
You called him the Wizard.
he's a wizard. I mean, look at what he's done. Look at what he's done. I don't know that there's anyone in the game that has developed better and been more consistent with his development than John. I just think he's exceptional at what he does. He's a wizard. He's a wizard. He's so good.
Will he still be able to help you out during the season, or is he just going to sit back and watch? What's his plans?
Well, we haven't figured that out yet. I'd love for him I'd love to get him out here. He has a very busy schedule in his like he and his wife are, they are movers and shakers. They like to move and change scenery and take vacations together. And it's very sweet. I think it's, what Joe and I, like what they're doing is exactly what Joe and I talk about doing when we retire. So yeah, we would love to. We haven't figured that out yet. Just with our schedule and figuring out the best way to continue to utilize him. But yeah, I would love for that to happen.
I'm just happy he's happy. I've covered him since he was the head coach at Tulsa. He's got that dry humor people don't realize, and I'm definitely glad. Hopefully, he stays around the game, because I think the game's better when he's around it.
The game is better when he's around it, for sure. He makes the game better, and he's just a quality human. And so we always need those ones to stick around as much as we can.
So tell me about your arms. You've got some new faces in there with the blend with some of the returners there, and kind of how they fit together as a staff.
Well, they fit together really well. I would say that, with our returners, with Hannah Cammonson, we saw her get some really great, really big innings, have some really big outings for us last year. She's just continued to evolve. So adding more pitches to her arsenal, just different ways to set up batters. And she's just, so even keel. Like, she's just competitive, so even keel. It's just really nice. She just gets in, she works. She's just great to work with. They all are, but we have Robin Heron as a returner. She's a lefty. She has really great spin. We've really challenged her this fall, and she's answered that. I think we've seen the most growth with her, of our returners. And I'm just really proud of her and the work that she's put in and just where she's at physically and mentally. Like, I can't wait to watch her compete. It's just really fun. Nikki McGaffin, is another, returner that we have. She's just someone, again, we challenged her last year. She kind of came in with, very niche. And did I say that word right? Niche, you know what I mean? Okay. That's,
Go with it.
she was and we just kind of wanted to expand her game. We wanted to expand her arsenal, and she's worked her tail off. I mean, she's just an incredibly hard worker, one of the most competitive people you'll ever be around. And so we have a really good base with our returners. And then we added a freshman, Casey Wood, who's just kind of an all-around utility athlete. So she's a position player. She pitches a little. You'll probably won't see her as much in the circle as the others, but she will supplement them as we need. And she's done a really great job of just and doing anything we ask her to do. And then our transfers, in Morgan Linestock, I mean, she's just so consistent, not flashy, but really, really consistent with what she does. And just a fierce competitor. And so I think she's going to she's going to take on a ton of innings with us. And then Reese Berline from Mississippi State, she's done a tremendous job as well. So I think that they complement each other really, really extremely well. We have everything that we need on this staff. It's very well rounded. And like I said earlier, they support each other really well, and they're just kind of up for anything we ask them for that day, and they're ready for it. So we've challenged them quite a bit. I think that they are a group that wants to prove to everyone that they belong here, and they want to prove that they, maybe you shouldn't doubt them. They know that they're getting the question marks. And I think that it's starting to fuel their fire a little bit, which is nice. And so I know I'm curious. I want to see how they respond.
Yeah, that's the name of the game, right? Just to
That's
see how
the
you
name
got to
of the
throw them
game.
out there. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm ready to see how they prove themselves and how they respond.
Well, if they should have confidence too, what they have from an offensive standpoint. You've got a lot of talent back offensively. You've added some pieces to the offense. I'm curious how the pieces fit because you, not just from an offensive talent standpoint, from a defensive standpoint. Like for example, I see where you could in theory play Halverson, Ellis, and Hedgecock. All could play first base. Well, obviously, only can play one in it per game. Although I guess you can make some train changes, defensive changes, things during the game. But how do you see the offense envision, but especially with some of these players that can play certain positions? You got 2, 3 players at certain positions that can play that position, but yet you probably want their bat in the lineup.
Well, I can say that we're going to have Halverson, Ellis, and Hedgecock's bat in the lineup.
Yeah, I
So we're going to
figured.
find a way to make that work. No, we asked Kylie to work at second base. We kind of looked at what we had, what we needed to kind of move around, what we need to figure out to get those 3 bats in the lineup. We asked her to start working at second base. And I think at first she was kind of like, can I do this? Like I played first my whole life. And once she kind of got over that, like, can I do this? She has never looked back. And so that's what's the best thing. We kind of pitched it to her as like, hey, this is what's best for the team. Like if you can hold down this position, it allows us to be our strongest offensively that we can be. And so I think she's handled that really well. We run our defense through our second baseman, so we ask a lot of them, and she's the perfect person for that job. She's done a really great job there. So our plan is for Brie Ellis to play first, for Kylie Halverson to play second. And Rylan Hedgecock's looked really good in right field. She'll either be the DP or have some time in right field, but we do have the ability to mix any of those 3 at first, as you said. So it's ultimately just obviously finding a way to have those 3 bats in the meat of your order, and we will. But yeah, it's been fun competition in the field. I would say if you come to practice, you'd look and say, okay, you have 5 positions that are set. As set as obviously things can change, but you have a Brie Ellis, you have a Kylie Halverson, you have a Reagan Johnson who flat flies. And then we've had really, really great competition at those other positions and some really great depth. So we're still figuring things out. I like where we're at. I like our offense. I like our defense. So it's good.
Well, one of the players I liked you picked up was Carter from Iowa, who I think helped turn around that program. They had a great season last year. She was a big part of that. She led one of the nation's best hitters. Talk about her and where you see her fitting in the lineup, because they hit her north towards the top. Is that where you envision her? You still not figured that out, but she's a talented bat too that you picked up.
She is incredibly talented. She's one of the most, it's the best compliment I can give her, one of the most annoying hitters to call pitches for. And I don't know. We haven't figured out our lineup quite yet. I can't imagine she's not going to be up at the top with just what she does offensively and what she brings. We have some really great options, with her, with Reagan Johnson. And then you get into those power hitters with Kylie and Rylan and Bree and Hannah Gamble, and Reagan Kramer was really powerful for us last year and had great production numbers. So I don't know. I don't know where that's going to be, but when you look at someone like Nia, who led the conference in hits by 30, it's a pretty big gap and a pretty big number. And it's just hard to do. And she is every bit of that. She is an extremely hard out, and a great table setter. So I don't know. Long story short, I don't know, Eric. I don't know what we're going to do. Do you have a lineup for me? Give it to me. I'm ready.
I could send you some. I mean, suggestions. We'll see. I don't have
I
to
know
take
you
it.
have one. I know you have one.
I know. Well, you hired somebody that's responsible for that, really, who can help with that, and that's of course DJ Gasso, who will be running your offense this year. Just talk about that process of bringing him in. And I'm assuming you two have known each other for a while since from your days at Oklahoma, I would imagine. Is that accurate?
Yes, I knew him from my time in Oklahoma. He was just a little punk kid around that time. No, I'm just kidding. But he was young, and it's like we get into because we hired Danielle Gibson back too, and those two have been incredible additions. But you have me and Matt, and we're talking about like certain things, and you have DJ and Gib who are just a little bit younger than us, just a little bit. But I did know him from that time, and I've had the privilege of following his career. So not just his coaching career, but I followed him through his college time, his time at Bradley. One of our assistant volleyball coaches from here took the head job at Bradley, and she was like texting me one day, "Do you know this guy DJ Gasso?" It's like he just comes in my office and starts like chatting, and it's like that's who he is. He's just walking like personality. But he coaches that way too. And it's just been fun to see him make a name for himself. And it's been fun to see him just absolutely dive in here and to see our players respond to him and just how he coaches and how great he is. On the daily, he's been a huge addition. And then just adding Danielle and how they work together and how she just kind of supplements everything. It's been a great fall. It's been a great January. The level of competitiveness and just how they just hold our standards and expectations at a consistent and high level. They've made a huge impact and they're great additions. So we're very lucky.
No, he's great, and DJ's a great guy. He's awesome. The only flaw he's got, he's a Raiders fan in the NFL. So
It's a big flaw. It is
big
a
flaw.
huge
Yeah,
flaw.
yeah.
Mhm.
I couldn't believe it when he told me that. I'm like, that's
Yeah.
disappointing.
It really questions his character. Matt is a 49ers fan, hardcore. And so
Oh,
they have some really, really big battles.
mm.
And the Raiders are just like, come on,
It's a
you're
little
not.
one-sided right there right now, but
Yeah, it
I
is.
won't get
It is.
involved too much on that. But I can't talk. I'm a Dolphin fan, so that he brings it
Oh,
back to me.
goodness
Yeah,
gracious.
yeah, yeah. It's rough, but
Yeah.
you have DJ. You mentioned Danielle back, both full-time assistants. That's part of the new thing in landscape and softball. How
Yeah.
has that changed things for you having now those two as full-time assistants alongside Matt Michael? How's that changed? If tweak maybe do you have more delegating? Do you have less things to how has that affected kind of the staff?
Well, it's huge. I mean, it was so needed for our sport and for just how our games shifted, the numbers, the roles. But having, I mean, the three of them, it's incredible. Just the set of eyes on everything that we do and just the level of expertise and knowledge that they bring every day. It's so nice. It's shifted things a little bit, and like it's obviously really nice to share the recruiting duties with three others instead of two, and it's always nice just to have another set of eyes on things and people that don't necessarily have egos, and we can just share it really well and get ideas. And so it's been huge. It's been huge. Has it changed my workload? No, I don't think so. But it's just they're exceptional at what they do. They're exceptional at what they do.
No, they certainly are. Does Danielle want to be a head coach down the
I
road?
think
Is
so.
that's the goal? Okay.
Yeah, and she'll be outstanding. She'll be outstanding.
Is that something, when you have somebody like Danielle around you,
Mhm.
do you have that in the back of your mind? Obviously, there's things she's got to do to help this team and all that, but is in the back of your mind, do you feel a responsibility to kind of mentor her and say, this is what's life like as a coach, if this is the direction and path you want to take?
Yeah, I think that we have a responsibility with our assistants, with our grad managers, with our players. Like the ones that want to see that or want to be that, like you have a responsibility to teach them and should just help them in certain ways. Or, I think it's a nonstop dialogue with her. I think she knows that she could ask me about anything. Like if she wants to do something here, you try it, go for it. And having the ability to fail within that But I think it's just, yeah, you have the responsibility to prepare them. You know, even like Reagan Kramer, she wants to be a coach. Okay, well, let's talk through certain things, strategies, how to communicate, like, you know, just different things, you know, I do think we have a huge responsibility in that. And also one, just to show Danielle, like, hey, you can be married with kids and go be a head coach if that's what, and if you don't want to be, then great, that's your choice, you know, but you get to choose that, and then just getting her ready for that.
I know you're somebody that people reach out to for advice and guidance. What's the biggest, most common question you get asked as far as for advice as a coach?
Oh, good question. Shoot, I don't know that I've ever been asked that, Eric. Okay,
See, I try to be different than every, all the,
what? Got me on the spot. I think the two biggest things that I get asked about is um like culture, like how to, I guess, define your culture, how to continue to hold on to your culture when you add in transfers, when you add in freshmen, like in the changing landscape of college softball. I get a lot of culture questions. I get a lot of taking over programs, even though it's like now been 9 years. It doesn't feel like that long ago of taking over a program and kind of changing the trajectory or changing the culture of that and being patient through it. And then I get a lot of questions about, you know, just being a mom and the balance of things and being a female in this role. I get a lot of those questions too, maybe just supporting other females that want to do it. And I think we all kind of sometimes have that question of whether we can. So maybe I'm just that voice that says, go for it. Go for it. And if, you know, at least put yourself in that position, because I think as females, we figure it out. I think we can handle more. And so I mean, you asked for, you know, I think you asked for one, I gave you three.
I love it. I mean, I'm never going
Okay.
to be opposed to multiple answers. That's
Okay.
the beauty of the podcast there. Obviously, one person that is an example who's been on your staff, who's kind of looked up to you as kind of as a mentor is Jordan Clark, obviously the head coach at FAU. You're going to open at her park opening weekend, when we had her on, she just smiled at bringing that up. That means a lot to her, to that she's going to face her. Of course, she's going to return the favor, go to your tournament. I know you mentioned in one of the media availabilities that she kind of helped you out because you were looking for a tournament. But
Yeah.
what's it like to be on that side? Because you're still young. It's kind of the wild thing about this. But you're going to look at somebody across that, you know, is trying to basically looks at you as the standard and kind of picks for like, man, if I could do things like the success she's had, and looks up to you. What's that like to be on that other side? Because I'm sure when you started, you mentioned Patty Gasso was somebody you looked up to, being on that staff. You've had to face Coach Gasso. Now you're on the other side of this.
Yeah. Oh, my camera must not be clear if you're calling me young still. I was young when I was hired. I don't know. Remember, 9 years now, so young plus 9. But it's a huge compliment. It's a huge compliment. And because I mean, especially hearing that from Jordan, like she's had such a big hand in growing this program. Like she was with us for our first 3 years, which were our biggest steps we took, our biggest growth, our biggest, you know, everything. It was figuring it out. It was, you know, completely shifting our mindset. Um, into a new standard. And she had such a huge hand in that. But you also could see immediately that she was made for this role. She was made for the role to coach and to be a leader. And she's a person that she's a grinder, like she works her tail off, but she's a person that people gravitate towards and want to listen to. And so it's no surprise to any of us that she's where she is, and she'll just continue to rise in the ranks as she wants to. But it's a huge compliment. It's, you know, for someone to be in our program and to say this is the standard, it's huge because she's seen every layer of it and how we do things. And then it's just fun. It's fun to see someone coming from like your tree and just continuing to blossom in the sport and grow and make it better. And that's what Jordan does. So it'll be fun competition. She did help us out in letting us in the tournament. She was coming to ours already. She's kind of doing like her home, tour.
Yeah.
And then she let us in late, and I'm excited. I'm excited to see her do her thing. I haven't gotten to necessarily see it firsthand. And I always like playing good people and knowing, you're going to play a team that's really well coached and really well prepared, and they're going to demand your best. And so you're going to expect that from someone like Jordan, but it's fun being on the other side. You always have like, when you play someone like Patty, who had such a huge hand in the start of my career, you have this like, you're really proud. But you also have this, like, I want to prove to you, you have a little bit of, I want to prove to you
Sure.
that we belong and that we should be here. And I've done right by you kind of thing. And so it's a huge compliment to hear that from Jordan. That's a long answer. Sorry, but
Well, no. What's interesting is it. I would imagine it's going to be some mixed emotions because obviously you're a big, you're rooting for her. You want her to do well, except when you play her.
yeah.
She joked
But
that.
we want to win. We want to
Yeah,
win.
I know, but she's also competitive, as you know, as well as anybody. I mean, she's already trying to recruit some of your mutual friends to make sure they don't wear Arkansas gear when they play.
Yeah,
play.
that's fine.
So that's
That's fine.
gamesmanship. But I remember I spoke to Coach Heather Tarr about facing like Cindy Ball Malone. I talked to both of them when they played each other. Well, obviously they've worked together for a long time, know each other for a long time, going back to days at Pacific, and they said, while there's it's fun to kind of see each other and compete against each other. It's also weird because they've spent so much time, they know each other's tendencies. So it's a little weird,
Mhm.
like, and then sometimes you can psych yourself out because you're worried about, is she thinking what I'm thinking and type of stuff like that. Do you run into that when you have these type of games? Is it always kind of a weird deal there when you're facing somebody that you know very well or they know you well?
Yeah, I do think that there is certain aspects of the game, not just someone like Jordan who's been in our system, because our system 6 years ago is different than now. So it's like, certain things we might do would be different than what we did, with someone like that. But like I'm really close with Rachel Lawson. So she's one of my good friends in this profession. And so I know how she is and how she kind of like prepares. So I do think there's a lot of different levels to that, of just like sometimes you can overthink what you do because you feel like they know it really well or they studied it really well, or but that's why this game's so funky. It's just like you can psych yourself out in either way, saying you need to be something that you're not, or so it's always kind of the pull to kind of come back to do what we do really well, instead of trying to be something we're not, to try to like fool someone else. So I think that's always the give and take, is trying to not be predictable, but also not get away from what you do really well at your core. And so I think that's always kind of the goal, especially when you play someone that knows you really well or has been in your system.
No, no question. And I know that that from coaches have told me you're on references of a lot of people that are in coaching right now. The people that have worked with you and maybe or people maybe that just said, "Hey, can you give me a reference there?" Because I've heard from a lot of schools when they've had job openings, your name gets brought up from the standpoint of, can we find the next Courtney Deifel? Can we find that next person to build that program? What is that like to have you kind of be someone that other schools are trying to find the next version of you, which is kind of unique
You're
there?
gonna make me emotional, Eric.
That's not my intent, I swear. But it's a fact.
Um,
It's a fact. I'm just telling you because it's that when every summer off season when I hear about what certain schools are looking for, your name gets floated as far as can we find somebody similar to that? I think that's part of the reason FAU went with Jordan Clark because I think they saw some of that because I know that some of the people there.
well, I think it's just a huge compliment. I think it's a huge compliment because it's not just in like the wins and losses. I think it's how we've done it. To me, it's like reinforces, hey, you've done this the right way. And you've like led your team in the right way, or your team plays the game the right way. It's ultimately, we're just a reflection of what our team does and how we carry ourselves and that bit. But it's a huge compliment. You make me emotional. I'm really proud of what we've done here, because in the process, we've really stuck to our guns of who we are and how we feel you should do things, and just really would never sacrifice doing it the right way to get ahead. And so when you hear those things, it just kind of reinforces it, like, hey, you did it the right way. You're doing it the right way. And so it's a huge compliment.
Well, it's deserved. It was. I know it's been 9 seasons, but I will remind people, because I know people have short memories there. When you took over this program, it was not in good shape. It was at the bottom of the SEC. There wasn't the interest. Bogle wasn't packing the park, and you helped turn this program to now where the expectations are through the roof. And I think that's why I think a lot of administrators have seen that, and I think that's why they're trying to duplicate that in a lot of times when these jobs open. So I think that's why you've come up.
Yeah, I think that all the stars aligned here of like just the right fit, the right players. I think when we look back, when they asked me, in my interview, like, what do you what do you see for this program and what's your timeline? I think we made really huge strides from year 1 to year 3. And I think I said like 5. I don't know what I said, but it was the perfect fit. And I think that's the tough thing, is like, you're looking at what this program had done and what we're doing now. And it was a really great fit of coaches and a really great fit of players. And so it's nice. I get to be their leader, and I get to work with amazing people. However, I've never thrown a pitch. And I've never hit. No one needs me to do that. And so it's these players believing in Arkansas and believing that they can make a difference. And I think that's the piece, is just making sure they see more in themselves than they did before. But I'm really proud of our players for taking a chance on this place that hadn't really proven to belong in these ranks, and then they've elevated this program, and they continue to do that. And so I'm just lucky that I get to lead them.
Very good. Couple more things. You mentioned obviously you go to Boca to start the season. You go to Arizona to play in that tournament out there. Is that, I don't know if that's a return trip, because I know they've played at your place. Okay.
They came to us last year, so we're going out there. It's a great tournament too. But there's gonna be some explosive offense out there.
Yeah.
Ball's gonna fly in Tucson, so it's gonna.
There's going to be a certain legendary coach there from his suite watching that probably.
I hope so. Shoot, he's one of the best to ever do it. And so I always will look forward to the chance to get to see Coach Candrea living his retired life.
Right, yeah, enjoying himself, enjoying it in Arizona. So certainly you host Wichita State as well when you come home. And really one of the more intriguing tournaments of the year, I think, across the nation. You're going to host Nebraska, South Alabama, Northern Iowa, all in the same tournament. Like, that is a very good. Obviously, Nebraska's going to get a lot of attention with, obviously, adding Jordy Ball, and obviously Coach Ravel has a great team. But you got South Alabama, who's the first 4 out of the tournament last year. They got the Sun Belt pitcher there, and Olivia Lackey, and then Northern Iowa, Ryan Jacobs has done a great job with that program as a Valley. That is a stacked tournament, one of the better ones of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's Matt Michael's work. He's builds our tournaments. He hand selects for all 3 of them. And I would say that one's stacked, but they're all very good. They're all very challenging. And that's what it's all about. So I'm looking forward to it. We scheduled Nebraska before they added Jordy, and we're like, whoa. But you want to play the best. You want to be challenged. You want to get these players tested. You were talking to him yesterday. It's like, you haven't been tested yet. This group hasn't been tested yet. Let's see how we're going to respond when we get tested. Let's, and that's what it's all about. The non-conference schedule is testing yourself and preparing yourself, and that tournament and all the ones that we have will definitely do that.
No doubt. And obviously you got the SEC slate. I know starting next year, the amount of games will not change. even though
Mhm.
the conference will be adding Oklahoma and Texas. Is that accurate? And
Yeah.
that shouldn't adjust your non-conference schedule too much then, right? It should pretty much stay similar.
No, yeah, it'll be really similar. We'll still have the 8 3-game series, even though we changed. So I think before, where it took us maybe 3 years to do a complete cycle, it just takes a few years, like longer than that, just with how many teams. But I mean, we looked at all kinds of options and we just felt like that was the best for where our conference is, and it'll be fun. We get Oklahoma in the first year, so as we would expect when you're adding them, but it's fun. You're in this conference to play the best. You're adding two, I believe, top 5 teams this year, to our already really strong conference, and let's go, let's go to battle. Let's figure it out. It'll be fun.
My last question, as you get going, you'll be starting the season in Boca, as I mentioned. What are a couple questions you will have or keys that you're looking forward to finding out about your team playing somebody else and you think could be a big factor in, dictating where the rest of the season goes? What are a couple keys or questions you have?
Well, I think the big keys are more on our side of managing the pitching staff. I think that they're prepared. I think they're ready. I think they're have a little chip on their shoulder, but it's going to be how we utilize them. So that's going to be the key, is just kind of getting in that rhythm. And I think a lot of coaches would say, I want to see how our team responds when things don't go as expected. And so I want to see the character of our team when things get tough. And so that's the thing. And I think that first weekend is going to show us a lot in both of those areas. I think we're an incredibly strong team. I think we have all the tools that we need. But it's going to be how we respond when things don't go as expected.
That is Arkansas head coach Courtney Deifel in her 9th season. I'm still not gonna. I'm in denial on that. I maybe that's a misprint by
Same,
grade. Come on, what would happen? But
same.
hey,
Oh my gosh.
thanks for always taking the time to talk to us. I know it's a busy schedule. Your family got obviously getting ready for the season, but you always make time to talk to us. Always enjoy catching up, and I know we'll cross paths. But thanks for always doing this and talking to us.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I always love chatting with you, Eric. So thanks for having me on.